The gentle hum of the engines filled the bridge of the Horizon Dawn as it glided through the empty darkness of space. Captain June sat in his command chair, his eyes fixed on the stars that stretched out before him. The research vessel had been exploring this uncharted sector for 3 weeks now, and the crew was starting to get restless. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Han, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly over her console. "It's a signal. Weak, but steady." June leaned forward. "A signal? Out here? What kind?" "It seems to be a distress call," Han replied. Her dark eyes narrowed as she listened through her earpiece. "But it's not in any language I recognize." Dr. Na-Young looked up from her science station. As the ship's xenobiologist, anything new caught her interest. "Can you play it for us?" Han nodded and tapped a button. A strange sound filled the bridge, a series of deep rumbles mixed with high-pitched clicks. "That's no standard distress code," said Tay, the ship's engineer. He stood behind Han, his arms crossed over his chest. "Could be a trap," Captain June thought for a moment. "How far away is the source?" "About 2 hours at our current speed," Han answered. "Galactic Council protocols say we shouldn't approach unknown signals without backup," Tay reminded everyone. June nodded slowly. "I know the rules, but someone might need help." He turned to the helmsman. "Set a course for the signal. Let's it. Please take a look." "Yes, sir," the helmsman replied. As the Horizon Dawn changed direction, Dr. Na-Young moved to stand beside the captain. "Do you think it's wise to investigate without calling it in first?" "By the time help arrives, whoever sent that signal could be dead," June said. "We're a research vessel, but we're still human. We help those in need." 2 hours later, the ship slowed as it approached a dense asteroid field. The distress signal was coming from inside. "Scan the area," June ordered. "I'm detecting a small ship," reported the sensor officer. "Drifting between the asteroids. It's badly damaged. Life signs? 2. Very faint." Captain June stood up. "Prepare a rescue team, Dr. Na-Young, you're with me. Tay, I need you too. Han, keep trying to translate that signal." "Captain," Tay said with concern, "we don't know what's out there." "That's why we're going to find out," June replied firmly. 20 minutes later, Captain June, Dr. Na-Young, Engineer Tay, and 2 security officers boarded their shuttle. They wore spacesuits with helmets as they approached the damaged alien vessel. "It's unlike any ship I've seen before," Na-Young said, studying the strange craft through the shuttle window. The alien ship was shaped like a crescent moon with a dark metallic surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Tay pointed to a large hole in the side of the ship. "Look there. They were hit by something powerful." The shuttle docked near the damaged area. With flashlights on, the team entered the alien vessel. The air inside was thin but breathable, so they removed their helmets but kept them close. "It's cold in here," one of the security officers noted. "Life support must be failing," Tay said, checking his handheld scanner. "The life signs are coming from the front of the ship." They moved carefully through dark corridors. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the floor was made of a material that felt like soft metal under their boots. When they reached what appeared to be the bridge, they stopped in shock. A massive creature lay on the floor, surrounded by a pool of dark blue liquid that had to be its blood. It was twice the size of a human, with thick gray skin covered in plate-like scales. Its 4 powerful arms ended in clawed hands, and its head featured multiple eyes and a jaw that could easily crush bones. It's a Krivath," Na-Young whispered, her voice filled with awe and fear. "A what?" asked June. "A Krivath. I've only read about them. They're supposed to be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Most species are terrified of them." The wounded Krivath's eyes opened slowly. They were a deep amber color with vertical pupils that widened when they saw the humans. Everyone except Na-Young stepped back, hands moving to their weapons. "Wait," Na-Young said, raising her hand. "It's hurt badly. It can't harm us." She knelt beside the massive creature, opening her medical kit. The Krivath watched her, then made a low rumbling sound. Na-Young suddenly froze, her eyes widening. What's wrong? June asked, concerned. I can hear it. In my mind, she said softly. It's telepathic. What is it saying? Tay asked nervously. Na-young's face showed confusion, then understanding. It says, save my cub. As if responding to these words, a small sound came from beneath a fallen panel near the control console. June cautiously moved forward and lifted the panel. Hiding beneath it was a smaller version of the adult Krivath, clearly a young one. It was about the size of a human child, with softer features and wide, frightened eyes. The cub made a soft clicking sound and tried to back away from June. The adult Krivath made another rumbling noise and the cub stopped moving. It told its child we're not a threat, Na-young translated, still connected to the adult's thoughts. June knelt down to look at the cub. Hello there, little one, he said gently. The adult Krivath's breathing became more labored. It reached out, one massive hand toward Na-young, its claws carefully retracted. It wants me to... Oh! Na-young gasped as the Krivath's mind connected more deeply with hers. Images and feelings flooded her consciousness. A peaceful homeworld, a culture rich with tradition, a desperate journey to find safe haven, and a name, Krivath, a species misunderstood and feared across the galaxy. What's happening? June asked, concerned by Na-young's reaction. It's dying, she said, tears forming in her eyes. It's showing me its memories. It wants us to understand. The adult Krivath's eyes moved to its cub, then back to the humans. Its message was clear even without telepathy. Take care of my child. Tay shook his head. Captain, we can't. The Galactic Council has strict rules about interfering with unknown species, especially predatory ones. Rules don't apply when a child needs help, June replied firmly. The adult Krivath seemed to understand. It made one final rumbling sound and then its eyes slowly closed. The connection with Na-young broke and she sat back, wiping tears from her face. It's gone, she said softly. The cub made a heartbreaking sound, a high-pitched keening that needed no translation. It moved toward its parent, nudging the massive head with its own. When there was no response, it looked up at the humans, its amber eyes filled with confusion and fear. What do we do now, Captain? Asked one of the security officers. June looked at the orphaned cub, then at his team. We take it with us. We can't leave it here to die. But sir, Tay protested, it's a Krivath. If what Dr. Na-young says is true, they're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Right now it's just a child who lost its parent, June answered. He slowly approached the cub, hand outstretched. And we're not leaving anyone behind. The small Krivath looked at June's hand, then at its dead parent. After a moment of hesitation, it moved closer to June, making a soft clicking sound. Let's get it to the ship, June said. Han needs to send a message to Earth Command. We've just adopted an apex predator's cub, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the galaxy isn't going to be happy about it. The medical bay of the Horizon Dawn was quiet except for the soft beep of monitors. Dr. Suk, the ship's doctor, moved around the small Krivath cub with careful steps. The creature watched her with wide amber eyes, following her every move. It seems to understand we're trying to help, Suk said to Captain June, who stood nearby with Dr. Na-young. Can you tell if it's healthy? June asked. Suk shook her head. I have no idea what healthy looks like for a Krivath, but it doesn't appear to be injured, just scared and sad. The cub made a soft clicking sound, then a low rumble that reminded them of its parent. It's hungry, Na-young said suddenly. When the others looked at her in surprise, she explained, I still have some of the telepathic connection from the parent. It's fading, but I can feel basic needs from the cub. What does it eat? Suk asked with concern. Meat, I think. Raw meat. Jin, the security chief, frowned from where he stood by the door. Great. An apex predator that needs meat, that's not concerning at all. June gave him a look. It's a child, Jin. It needs food. I'll check what we have in storage, Suk said, heading for the food synthesizer. The door to the medical bay opened, and Han rushed in. Captain, we have a problem. 3 ships are approaching, a Veldari trader, a Moxan passenger liner, and a Galactic Council patrol vessel. They all picked up our transmissions about finding a Krivath. What do they want? June asked. They're demanding we jettison the dangerous creature immediately. Han's face showed how upset she was. The Moxan captain said we're all going to die if we keep it on board. That's ridiculous, Na Young said, looking at the cub. It had curled itself into a ball on the medical bed, looking small and harmless. Jin stepped forward. Captain, maybe we should listen. The Krivath have a bad reputation for a reason. Based on what? June challenged. Ancient stories. Fear? Look at it, Jin. Does that look like a monster to you? The security chief studied the cub, his expression softening slightly. No, but it will grow into one. We don't know that, Na Young argued. The parent showed me memories. Their species isn't naturally violent. They're feared because they're strong and look frightening. The comm system beeped. Captain June, Han said. The council vessel is hailing us directly. June nodded. Put it through here. The screen on the wall lit up, showing a stern-faced alien with blue skin and no hair. Human vessel, this is Council Enforcer Drall. You are harboring a Class 1 dangerous life form. By Council Directive 87, you must remove it from your ship immediately. The dangerous life form is an orphaned cub, June replied calmly. We found its parent dying. We couldn't leave it to die too. Your compassion is noted but misplaced, Drall said coldly. The Krivath are not like other species. They are natural-born killers. That cub will grow into a threat to your entire crew. We don't believe that, June stated firmly. We intend to care for it. Drall's eyes narrowed. Then, you leave me no choice. I am ordering you under council authority to surrender the Krivath. If you refuse, I will board your vessel and remove it myself. The transmission ended abruptly. June turned to his crew. Options? We could go to warp, Tay suggested. The council vessel can't follow us at full speed. Running would make us look guilty, Jin pointed out. Na Young had moved to the medical bed and was carefully stroking the cub's head. To everyone's surprise, the small Krivath was making a sound that resembled purring. Look at this, she called to them. It's responding to kindness. I don't think these creatures are born violent. Sook returned with a plate of synthesized meat. When she placed it near the cub, it sniffed cautiously, then began to eat with small, careful bites. It has manners, Sook observed with a smile. I expected it to gobble everything down. June watched the scene, then made his decision. We're keeping it. The council's fear doesn't override our duty to help a child in need. Captain, Jin said seriously, this could cost you your command. Then so be it. June's voice was firm. I won't abandon a child of any species because of prejudice. Han looked at the cub with a thoughtful expression. It needs a name. We can't just keep calling it or the cub. How about Day? Na Young suggested. It means greatness in Korean. Maybe it will grow into something great, not something terrible. Day, June repeated, nodding. I like it. The cub, now named Day, looked up at the sound, its amber eyes meeting June's. For a moment, June thought he felt something, a brush against his mind similar to what Na Young had described. The ship suddenly shook. We're being scanned, Tay reported from a console. The council vessel is powering up its tractor beam. Red alert, June ordered, tapping his communicator. Bridge, evasive maneuvers. Tay, get us out of here. Tay rushed out. Jin moved to the door, weapon ready. I'll post guards in this section. I'll stay with D, Na Young offered. He trusts me. June nodded and headed for the bridge, with Sook following close behind. When they arrived, the view screen showed the 3 alien ships forming a blockade. Status? June demanded. Council ship is trying to lock onto us, the helmsman reported. The Veldari and Moxan vessels are moving to cut off our escape routes. Can we go to warp? Not with their scanners locked on our engines, Tay said from the engineering station. They're deliberately interfering with our systems. Han turned from her station. Captain, we're being hailed by all 3 ships now. And there are more coming. 7 ships in total, all demanding we give up the Krivath cub. June sat in his command chair, his face set with determination. Open a channel to all of them. Han nodded and pressed a few buttons. Channel open. This is Captain June of the Earth research vessel Horizon Dawn. We have rescued an orphaned Krivath cub who was alone and would have died. We will not abandon it to die or to be killed because of your fear. His voice was calm but steel hard. This is a child. On Earth, we protect children of all species. If you want this cub, you'll have to come through us first. They're charging weapons, the tactical officer reported. Shields up, June ordered. He looked at Han. Send a message to Earth Fleet. Tell them we've rescued a child and are being threatened by Council vessels. Request immediate assistance. Han nodded and sent the message. It will take at least 2 days for any help to arrive. Then we'll hold out for 2 days, June said simply. Back in the medical bay, Na Young sat beside the sleeping Day. The small, Krivath cub had curled up against her side, seeking comfort. She stroked its scaled head gently. Don't worry, she whispered. Humans keep their promises. We won't let anything happen to you. The ship shook again as another scanning beam hit their shields. Day woke with a start, making a frightened sound. Na Young pulled him closer. It's okay, you're safe with us. In the space around the Horizon Dawn, more alien ships were arriving. None of them understood why the humans would risk everything for a dangerous predator's cub. None of them could comprehend why Captain June and his crew stood firm against the entire Galactic Council, for the sake of one small, orphaned alien. But as Day snuggled against Na Young, seeking protection from a species he barely knew, one thing became clear. The humans had made their decision, and they would stand by it no matter what the rest of the galaxy thought. 3 months had passed since the Horizon Dawn rescued Day. The standoff with the alien ships had ended when an Earth fleet patrol arrived, forcing the Council vessels to back down. Now, the research ship was on its way to a Galactic Council outpost where they would have to officially explain their decision to keep a Krivath cub. In those 3 months, Day had changed. He had grown several inches taller and had started to speak simple words in human language. His favorite word was friend, which he used often while following crew members around the ship. Dr. Na Young sat in the observation lounge, watching Day play with young Cadet Yoon, the newest and youngest crew member. They were building a tower with colored blocks, and each time it fell, both of them laughed. Day's laugh a strange mixture of clicks and rumbles that somehow sounded joyful. I never thought I'd see a Krivath playing like a child, said Captain June as he sat down beside Na Young. That's because he is a child, she replied with a smile. My research shows that Krivath cubs learn by copying those around them. They bond deeply with whoever raises them and take on their values. So if violent people raised them, they would become violent. Na Young finished his thought. And if kind people raised them, they both looked at Day, who was carefully helping Yoon rebuild the tower, his clawed hands moving with surprising gentleness. Captain, to the bridge, came Han's voice over the comm system. We're approaching the Council outpost. On my way, June replied, standing up. He looked at Na Young. It's time to face the music, get Day ready. An hour later, the Horizon Dawn docked at the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's outpost in this sector. A group of Council officials waited as Captain June led his senior crew members out to meet them. Dr. Na Young walked, beside Day, who now wore a simple blue tunic made specially for his four-armed body. At the front of the Council group stood Representative Mok, a tall, thin alien with pale green skin and large black eyes. His expression showed clear disgust as he saw Day. Captain June, Mok said coldly, I see the reports were correct. You are keeping the Predator as some sort of pet. Day is not a pet, June replied firmly. He's under our protection and care. Mok's eyes narrowed. The Council has sent me to assess this situation. I will need to inspect your ship and observe the creature. His name is Day, Na Young corrected, and you're welcome to observe him, but please show respect. Mok looked surprised at being challenged, but gave a small nod. Very well, let us proceed. As they walked through the ship, Mock asked many questions about how they were raising Dai. He seemed especially concerned about security measures. Where do you keep it confined? He asked, looking around engineering where Tay was showing Day how a power relay worked. We don't confine him, Tay answered, looking up from his work. He has his own quarters next to Dr. Na Young's, but he's free to move around most of the ship. Mock looked horrified. You allow a Krivath free movement? Do you realize how dangerous that is? Day isn't dangerous, Jin said. The security chief had changed his opinion over the past months after seeing how gentle Day could be. He's learning our ways. He follows our rules. Impossible, Mock insisted. Krivath are born killers. It's in their nature. At that moment, Day approached Mock and looked up at him with curious eyes. Hello, he said in his rumbling voice. Friend? Mock stepped back quickly. Keep it away from me. Day's eyes showed confusion and hurt. He looked at Na Young, who put a comforting hand on his shoulder. It's okay, Day, she said softly. Not everyone understands you yet. Captain June faced Mock directly. Representative, with all due respect, you're judging Day based on stories and fear, not on what you can see with your own eyes. Look at him. Really look. Is this the monster you expected? Mock stared at Day for a long moment. The young Krivath stood quietly, his 4 hands clasped in front of him, his posture respectful and calm. I admit he seems well behaved, Mock said reluctantly. But when he grows larger, stronger, a loud alarm suddenly cut through the air, making everyone jump. Engineering to Captain. A panicked voice called over the comm. We have a fire. In Section 4, the coolant line ruptured. Anyone hurt? June demanded. Engineer Park is trapped behind the fire. We can't reach him. June and Tay started running toward the emergency with the others following close behind. When they reached Section 4, smoke was pouring out of the doorway. Through the haze, they could see flames blocking the path to where Park was trapped. The fire suppression system failed, a crew member reported. We need to get Park out, but the heat is too intense. Before anyone could stop him, Day pushed forward. Na Young reached for him but missed. Day, no, she cried. But the young Krivath was already moving toward the fire. To everyone's amazement, he walked straight through the flames. His scaled skin seemed to resist the heat that would have badly burned a human. Krivath are heat-resistant, Mock whispered in awe. Their home planet has rivers of molten rock. Through the smoke, they could see Dai reaching Engineer Park, who was unconscious on the floor. With strength surprising for his size, Day lifted the man and carried him through the flames to safety. Medical staff rushed forward to take Park. Day stood back, his scales slightly darkened from the fire, but otherwise unhurt. He looked at Captain. June, friend safe? He asked simply. June's eyes were wet with emotion. Yes, Day. Friend is safe because of you. Representative Mock stared at the scene in disbelief. He saved a human life, at risk to himself. That's what friends do, Na Young said quietly. That's what we've been teaching him. The fire was finally put out, and Engineer Park was taken to the medical bay. Dr. Sook reported that he would recover fully thanks to Day's quick action. Later, in the ship's conference room, Representative Mock sat across from Captain June and his senior staff. Day sat beside Na Young, now clean after his adventure in the fire. I must admit, Mock said slowly, I came here expecting to find a monster being foolishly kept by naive humans. Instead, I find something unexpected. You found a child being raised with love and care, June said. A child who is learning that helping others is important. Mock nodded. The Council has always believed that Krivath were naturally violent. But perhaps, he looked at Day thoughtfully, perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps it was always about how they were treated. Will you support us then? Na Young asked, when we present our case to the full Council? I will report what I have seen, Mock replied, that this young Krivath saved a life today, and that he shows none of the aggression we feared. He stood up. The Council may not change its mind. Quickly, Captain June. Many species have feared the Krivath for generations, but you have given me much to think about. As Mok left the room, Day looked up at Na-Young with his amber eyes. Mok friend now? He asked. Na-Young smiled and stroked his scaled head. Not yet, Day, but maybe someday. Captain June looked at his crew. This is just the beginning. The news about Dai's heroism will spread. People will have to rethink what they believe about the Krivath and about humans, Han added with a smile. The species crazy enough to adopt an apex predator's cub. Day didn't understand everything they said, but he felt their pride and affection. He had found a new family among the stars, a family that didn't fear him or hate him for what he was, a family that saw what he could become. Humans were strange, Day thought, but they were his humans now, and he would protect them just as they protected him. Word spread quickly about the young Krivath who had saved a human life. Some were amazed, others doubtful, but most remained fearful. 6 weeks after the incident at the Council outpost, the Horizon Dawn continued its research mission with Day, as part of the crew. Commander Yoon, the ship's second-in-command, stood on the bridge beside Captain June. They watched the main screen as a message from Earth Fleet headquarters played. The diplomatic situation is getting worse, Admiral Hyun said, his face serious on the screen. A coalition of species is demanding that Earth hand over the Krivath youth. They're threatening trade sanctions against all human colonies if we refuse. On what grounds? June asked, frustrated. Fear, mostly, Admiral Hyun replied. There's a history between the Krivath and many of these species that goes back thousands of years. They believe we're being foolish, perhaps even endangering the galaxy. Commander Yoon frowned. Has anyone bothered to meet Day? To see how he's developing? Facts don't matter much when fear is involved, the Admiral said sadly. I'm sending you some historical records we've gathered about the Krivath. Maybe understanding the past will help us navigate the present. He paused. How is the young one doing? June allowed himself a small smile. Growing fast, learning faster. He's becoming quite the engineer. Tay says he has a natural talent for understanding how things work. Good. Keep me updated. Earth Fleet. Stands with you, Captain. Yoon out. The screen went dark. June turned to Yoon. Let's look at those records. Maybe they'll tell us something useful. Later that day, Captain June, Commander Yoon, Dr. Na-Young, and Tai gathered in the ship's library. Tay sat with them, now large enough that he needed a specially built chair to support his growing frame. At 6 months since his rescue, he had nearly doubled in size. These records are fascinating, Na-Young said, looking through the data Admiral Hyun had sent. According to this, the Krivath were once peaceful explorers, but about 5,000 years ago another species called the Vox discovered them. The Vox? Yoon asked. I've never heard of them. They died out long ago, Na-Young explained. But before they did, they enslaved the Krivath and used them as warriors because of their physical abilities. They forced them to fight their wars. Day looked sad as he listened. His understanding of human language was now quite good, though his speech remained simple. Bad people made Krivath fight? He asked. Yes, Na-Young said gently. They didn't. Give your ancestors a choice. Tay leaned forward. According to this, after centuries of being used as weapons, the Krivath finally rebelled against their masters. They overthrew the Vox, but by then everyone saw them as monsters, June finished, and they had learned to be warriors rather than explorers. Sad story, Day said simply. His 4 hands were folded in his lap, his amber eyes thoughtful. The ship's alert suddenly sounded. Captain to the bridge, Han's voice called over the comm. We have 3 unidentified vessels approaching fast. Everyone rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, 3 sleek black ships appeared, moving quickly toward the Horizon Dawn. They're not responding to hails, Han reported from her station. Scan them, June ordered. Heavily armed, reported Jin from Tactical. No identifying. Marks or standard registration signals. Pirates, mercenaries, Commander Yoon wondered. Jin's console beeped urgently. They're powering weapons. Shields up, June ordered. Evasive maneuvers. The ship rocked as the first shots hit their shields. D held onto a railing, his eyes wide but not showing fear. Their targeting systems are focused on decks 5 through 7, Jin reported. That's where Day's quarters are located. His voice hardened. They're hunting him specifically. June's face grew stern. Return fire, warning shots only. The Horizon Dawn fired its weapons, but the attacking ships were too fast, darting around them like angry insects. They're trying to disable our engines, Tay called out from the engineering station. If they succeed, they could board us. A particularly hard hit rocked the ship, sending sparks flying from a nearby console. Cadet Yoon, who had been monitoring communications with Han, was thrown from his seat. Day moved quickly, catching the young human before he hit the floor. He set Yoon safely back on his feet with gentle hands. "Thank you," Yoon said, smiling at his friend. Jin looked at his tactical display with growing concern. "Captain, I don't think we can outrun them or outfight them. These aren't ordinary ships." "Bounty hunters," Commander Yoon said suddenly. "They must have been hired to capture or kill Day." Day had been watching the tactical display with growing understanding. He moved to stand beside Jin, studying the movement patterns of the enemy ships. "They move in pattern," he said, pointing. "With one clawed finger. Always same. 3 points, then drop, then circle." Jin looked surprised, then studied the movements more carefully. "He's right, there's a pattern to their attack formation." "Can we use that?" June asked. Jin nodded slowly. "If we time our fire to their pattern." He looked at Day with new respect. "Good catch." Working together, Jin and Day predicted the hunters' next moves. The Horizon Dawn managed to damage one of the attacking ships, forcing it to retreat. 2 more still coming, Day said, now fully engaged in helping defend his home. June watched as the young Krivath worked alongside his tactical officer. Day's natural abilities, quick reflexes, sharp eyes, and tactical thinking were proving valuable, but he was using them to protect, not to destroy. "Captain," Han called out, "I'm picking up new ships on long-range sensors." Everyone tensed, expecting more enemies, but Han's face broke into a smile. "It's Admiral Hyun. Earth fleet vessels approaching at high warp." On the screen, 5 large Earth fleet ships appeared, surrounding the bounty hunters. A message came through. "This is Admiral Hyun of Earth Fleet. Stand down immediately or be destroyed." The bounty hunter ships hesitated, then turned and fled at maximum speed. When the danger had passed, Admiral Hyun transported to the Horizon Dawn. He was a tall man with gray hair and a serious face that broke into a smile when he saw Day. "So this is the young one I've heard so much about," he said, studying Day with interest. Day stood tall, all 4 arms at his sides in a posture of respect he had learned from watching the crew. "I am Day," he said clearly. "These humans my family." "Admiral." Hyun nodded. "Yes, they are, and Earth protects its families." He turned to Captain June. "The Council is calling an emergency session about this situation. Several species are demanding we hand over Day, claiming he's too dangerous to be raised by soft humans, as they put it." "And Earth's position?" Commander Yoon asked. "Earth stands with you," Admiral Hyun said firmly. "We will not surrender a child to those who wish him harm based on ancient prejudice." Day looked at the Admiral. "Why others hate Krivath so much?" Admiral Hyun's face softened. "They don't hate you, Day. They fear what they don't understand. Fear makes people do terrible things sometimes." "I not hurt anyone," Day said simply. "I help friends." "We know that," Nayoung said, putting her hand on his shoulder. "And soon, others will know it too." Later, as the Horizon Dawn traveled under escort to Earth, Day stood in the observation lounge with Yoon, watching the stars streak by. "Are you scared?" Yoon asked his friend. Day thought for a moment before answering. "Little scared, but not alone." He looked at the young human cadet. "Humans brave to help Krivath Cub, no one else would." "That's what we do," Yoon said with a shrug. "We look out for each other. And now that includes you." Across the galaxy, news spread of the species who adopted the apex predator. Some laughed at human foolishness. Others watched with growing interest. But all wondered what would happen when the Galactic Council finally met to decide the fate of one young Krivath and the humans who refused to abandon him. The Earth Council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. At the center of the room stood Captain June and his senior crew, with Day beside them. The young Krivath had grown even more in the past few weeks. He now stood, as tall as an adult human, his forearms stronger, his scaled body thicker, but his amber eyes still held the same gentle intelligence. "This meeting of the Galactic Council will now begin," announced the council leader, a tall Moxan with silver skin. "We are here to decide the fate of the Krivath youth currently in human custody." "Not in custody," Captain June corrected firmly. "Day is under our protection and care. He is part of our crew." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many representatives looked at Day with fear or disgust. "The council has reviewed the reports," Myxian continued, the leader. "We acknowledge that this young Krivath has shown no aggression. However, history teaches us to be cautious. The Krivath were once the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Because they were enslaved and forced to fight," Dr. Nayung stepped forward. "We've found records proving the Krivath were peaceful before. They were weaponized by the Vox. That was thousands of years ago," argued a Veldari representative. "Since then, the Krivath have been known only as conquerors and killers." "When was the last confirmed Krivath attack?" Admiral Hyun asked suddenly. The chamber grew quiet as the representatives looked at each other. "The records show no Krivath activity for over 300 years," the council leader admitted. "Because they disappeared," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Representative Mach. After their rebellion against the Vox, the Krivath gradually vanished from known space. The last recorded sighting was indeed 3 centuries ago. "Until we found Day and his parent," June said. Day stepped forward. His voice was deeper now, but still careful and clear. "May I speak?" The council leader looked surprised but nodded. "You may." "I remember more now," Day said. "From my parents' mind touch before death. Krivath not gone. Krivath in hiding, away from those who fear and hate." A commotion suddenly erupted as an aide rushed to the council leader, whispering urgently in his ear. The leader's silver face showed shock. We are detecting a massive ship entering the system," he announced. "It's unlike anything in our records." The main screen in the chamber activated to show a huge vessel approaching Earth. It was crescent-shaped, like Day's parents' scout ship, but hundreds of times larger. Its dark surface seemed to absorb the light from the nearby sun. "A Krivath vessel," breathed Nayung. "It has to be." Panic spread through the chamber. Some representatives called for immediate military action. Others demanded Earth surrender. "Day at once. Everyone calm down." Admiral Hyun's voice cut through the chaos. "They haven't shown any hostile intent. Let's not start a war out of fear." The massive ship had stopped at the edge of the solar system, making no aggressive moves. Suddenly Day gasped and put his hands to his head. "Day? What's wrong?" Nayung asked with concern. "Voices," he said, his amber eyes wide. "Many Krivath voices in my mind." He looked up at the screen showing the giant ship. "They coming for me?" "Are they going to attack?" Jin asked, moving closer to Day protectively. Day shook his head. "No. They surprised. They say humans protect Krivath cub. No one ever did this before." The chamber fell silent as everyone watched Day. His face showed concentration as he communicated with the distant Krivath ship. "They want to talk," he finally said. "To all. They ask permission to send one to speak." The council leader looked to Earth's representatives, who nodded. "Permission granted," the leader said, his voice unsteady. 20 minutes later, a small shuttle from the Krivath ship landed outside the council chamber. The doors opened, and a large Krivath entered. He was much bigger than Day, his scales darker with age, his movements dignified and calm. He wore a simple robe with strange symbols embroidered on it. "I am Elder Koth," he said in perfect galactic standard, surprising everyone. "I speak for the Krivath remnant. Day approached the elder and bowed his head in respect. The elder placed one of his 4 hands gently on Day's head. "Young one," he said, his voice full of emotion, "we thought you lost with your parent. To find you alive, and among friends. It is more than we hoped." "These humans saved me," Day said simply, "when all others wanted me dead." Elder Koth turned to face the council. "For the past 3 centuries we have hidden in the dark spaces between stars. After generations of being used as weapons, of being feared and hated, we chose isolation. But our numbers were few, and a cosmic radiation storm hit our hidden world 50 years ago. Many died. Our survival was threatened," he continued, his deep voice filling the chamber. "We sent scouts to find suitable worlds where we might live, in peace, but everywhere the old fears remained. No species would welcome us. So you sent your cubs away," Na Young said suddenly, understanding. "Like Day's parent." Elder Koth nodded. "Our scouts carried precious cargo, our children. Each scout sought a suitable guardian species, one that might see beyond our appearance, beyond ancient history, one that might protect a child simply because it needed protection." "Why didn't you just approach openly?" asked Commander Yoon. "Would you have welcomed us?" Elder Koth asked sadly. "Or would you have readied your weapons as so many did when they merely saw a lone scout ship?" No one in the chamber could answer. "Except humans," Elder Koth said, looking at Captain June and his crew. "You found a wounded Krivath and an orphaned cub, and your first thought was not of danger but of compassion. You defended a child against the wishes of the entire Galactic Council." He turned to the council leader. "For 300 years we have watched the galaxy from the shadows. We saw how each species reacted to others, how they treated the weak and vulnerable. We were searching for one thing, compassion that overrides fear." Captain June stepped forward. "So this was a test? To find a species that would help a Krivath child?" "Not a test," Elder Koth corrected. "A desperate hope, and you exceeded that hope. You did not simply save one cub, you changed his life, taught him your values, made him family." Elder Koth faced the entire chamber now. "The Krivath do not wish to conquer or threaten. We wish only to find a place where we can live in peace, where our children can grow without being feared or hated for the actions of ancestors they never knew." The council chamber was quiet as his words sank in. Representative Mock was the first to speak. "I have witnessed the young one save a human life," he said, "at risk to himself. Perhaps we have been wrong to judge an entire species based on their past." Slowly, other representatives began to speak, some still fearful, others thoughtful. The council leader raised his hands for silence. "This is much to consider," he said, "but one thing seems clear. The humans saw truth where we saw only danger. They gave sanctuary where we would have given death." He looked at Day and Elder Koth, then at Captain June. "It seems humanity has taught us an important lesson today. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to heal old wounds and move forward together." Later, as the formal meetings continued, Day stood on an observation deck with Captain June, Dr. Na Young, and the rest of the crew who had become his family. They watched as more Krivath ships arrived, smaller than the first but each carrying hopeful families looking for a new beginning. "What will happen now?" Day asked. "Earth has offered the Krivath a home," June said. "A new start." Na Young smiled at Day. "And you helped make it happen." Day looked out at the stars, then back at the humans who had saved him when everyone else would have let him die. "Humans special," he said simply. "Humans see with heart, not just eyes." As ships from Earth and the Krivath fleet began to fly together in the space above the blue planet, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning. And it had started with one simple act of compassion, when everyone left the apex predator's cub to die except the humans.